do you have any preconceptions coming into the game? Like, what did you anticipate? Were you expecting to be super attached to any particular part of the game, or anything you were not super interested in, like wary of?
Yeah.
Preconceptions?
So I'll come clean. I did actually play it like 2 years ago, but for like, I think I played like 2, 3, 4 hours, something like that, right? And I went into it with, I think, like the wrong mindset. I went into it
Take his sprout hat off him.
Yeah.
Get it going.
I went into it with like the WoW player mindset. You hear it. I think Preach mentioned it in his video recently about how not to play MMOs, right? Where he talked about during that mass exodus like 2 years ago, where Preach came over, Asmongold came over and stuff. A lot of WoW players also tried it out. You know, just people who aren't streamers. And Preach said like a lot of his friends and guildies, they just went in with it and were like, okay, well, I'll buy the boost, and I'll skip all the story, and then it's like, okay, well, how do I gear up? Because like we're just like trained to do that as WoW players. It's like, how do I min-max everything? Like it's always like rush to the end game. You know, the story, it comes up in a way, like here it comes up in like a dialogue box, and you're almost incentivized to read it, like you're pushed in that direction. Whereas in WoW, it's like it's just a box and you press accept. Like well, barely anyone probably reads the quest text and stuff. So you're very much like rushed into the end game. And I think if you come in with that mindset, and you can't really, say they're trained to do it, right? So they're not doing it intentionally, skipping the story. That's like second nature to them. So they'll rush through, sometimes buy the skip, sometimes they'll just skip the quests and the cutscenes and whatnot to get to max. And they're only really interested in the end game because that's all WoW. I mean, it's not all WoW has to offer, but it's for the majority of what is played in WoW. So people like rush through, get the gear and stuff. So yeah, I came in with that kind of mindset where I was just like, oh, it's like a different version of WoW, and I tried to just like speedrun everything. I didn't get attached to anything. I didn't really explore. I didn't really read the quests. I just kind of was like, it's okay. Like the graphics are alright. I wasn't like, basically the only thing I really did feel was like the combat, and I don't think the early combat is particularly mind-blowing. So like it definitely gets better as you get through levels, but I don't think I ever got to a level where I had a decent chunk of abilities. So I just was like, oh, like it's a super slow version of WoW with no abilities, and then I just kind of quit. So I came in with the wrong mindset. But this time around, I dropped my expectations to like completely zero. Went in with a super open mind and was just like, I'm just gonna experience the game basically as if I hadn't ever played a game before, and I was like a kid in a candy store kind of thing. And so far that's been doing wonders for me. People say I'm stalling and stuff like that, but I'm just exploring and enjoying it for what it is and has to offer. So I'm super, like, I think now, having done it this way, I'll try and take that mindset to like any other games I play as well. Like I feel like it's a completely different way to play games to what I'm used to, and I'm really enjoying it so far. Like so many, like actually turning every stone and seeing what's underneath rather than just running directly down that path of lights, which is kind of like lighting the runway and you just push towards, like, usually.
The good thing for you as well is I'm like 2 weeks ahead of you, so you can see what content I do and then steal any good ideas and throw away any bad ones. So it's like really, it's like you're in the sweet spot. Yeah, like, oh, so I did that and everybody
hated it. It was terrible.
All right, we'll skip that one. So it's perfect. Little do they know that I'm gonna now stall until you now slingshot past me, and then that's where I'm then gonna copy you. So we got it all figured out. We'll take turns.
Yeah.
I absolutely know what you mean. Like when you come into the FF, and for the longest time I was very similar, where my preconceptions about the game were a bit like, I've heard the combat's slow, I've heard A Realm Reborn is really slow, and the story isn't that great, and it takes a long time to get into, and things get better.
Yeah,
and they just keep saying that.
Just wait till Realm Reborn's done.
Yeah, and they just say, like, just get through it. But I've actually been so incredibly blown away by, like, how not like that it is.
Yeah, I was expecting so much worse. I was led to believe it was like, I'm gonna have to grit my teeth through the first however many hours, like 100 hours.
Like 60 hours of content. Yeah. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to just like like everyone says it's not very good ARR, like the storytelling's not great and stuff, and like, oh man, okay, like let's just see what we can do. And I was like, and I was coming into it, and I was saying to CC Lemon, my mod, and I was like, oh man, I'm not gonna have to I'm not gonna have to do any like role play stuff or anything like that. Like I'm not gonna have to go and do all this like random like I don't know, these random like parties and stuff. Because I remember seeing like the preach party one time and I was like, oh, that looks like funny, but like, oh, I never want to do that. Like, oh no, I don't want to. I'm not interested in any of that. Like, I'm quite like awkward, so I don't like putting myself in like awkward situations because I just think like, oh, that's not going to be very comfortable. But then I've come into the game, and I mean, you guys can go check out on my YouTube as well the house party video. Genuinely, I think it's a funny video.
Yeah.
Like, I got into it, man. I went to my first house party, and I got super into it. I thought it was awesome. The Realm Reborn, the MSQ has actually been really cool, mainly because I've been trying to cook up like early on, and I think it was kind of nice that people warned me that A Realm Reborn wasn't going to be great for the story, because it made me pay attention. Yes, and it made me like, yeah, okay, I've not been taking notes like on a notepad, but I've been very much tracking the characters and tracking the story. And obviously I won't say too much because I need to actually identify where you're at in the story before we get too much into that, which we will. But I was so surprised with how much I've been enjoying the MSQ. And then everyone was like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe you enjoyed ARR, but the post-patch quests are really bad. And then I did 2.1 and I was like, yo, this is so cool. Like, this is so good. And I'm like, when does this get bad? People have explained, like, it's not that ARR is bad, it's just that it gets better. But, like, for me, I've just really enjoyed it all so far. And then the combat as well. Like, I'm playing Samurai and Summoner at level 50, like, coils, and in some of the dungeons. And I actually really like it. It's simplistic enough for, like, where I'm at in the game, but advanced enough where I feel like I can min-max my positioning and my buff-up times and my dots and, like, multi-dotting mobs. And yeah, so I'm, like, actually really, like, all of my preconceptions have been blown away, and I'm getting involved in every element. Like you say, leaving no stone unturned, and it's been really enjoyable.
Yeah, it's nice to explore, like, horizontally as you go and, like, figure out just everything. Like, and just, not rush through it, really.